So before we get into this week 2 preview, let's just talk some of the buzz that's been happening around Steeler Nation over these last couple days. And we've got some pretty bad news. We got two dudes that are getting paid $40 million, like a combined $40 million that are going to be out for us for like a significant amount of time. And Cam Heyward and also Diontae Johnson. Mike Tomlin just confirmed yesterday that Cam is going to be electing for surgery. And based off the reports, that'll probably put him out, I think, between like 7 or 8 weeks. He suffered a groin injury against the 49ers, tried to come back, but it just wasn't in the cards. You could tell he was struggling. Now, that leaves us with some options right now. I lean on the side of we're good. We don't need to make any signings because there's a reason we drafted Keanu Benton in the second round. There's a reason we're paying Larry Ogunjobi $10+ million per year to be interior defensive lineman for us. Obviously, Cam Heyward is a significant loss, but I have a feeling those guys will be able to hold their own weight. And then we have more depth like Isaiah Loudermilk, Armon Watts, Braden Fehoko, and Montravius Adams. Some of the names that are being brought up, though, two of them are long shots. Two of them, low-key, are a little more realistic. The long shots, Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt. If we could trade for Aaron Donald and not have to pay his salary and not have to give up significant compensation, you know what? At this point, if we had to give up like a second or third round pick, I would do it for Aaron Donald. But again, we can't be taking on his cap hit. That's the problem. And the Rams, low-key, might be halfway decent. You saw how they played week 1 against the Seahawks. They're not going to want to trade their best player. I thought they were going to be bad, but from the looks of it, how they were able to beat Seattle, who everyone considers an NFC contender, they might be in the thick of things for the NFC playoffs. We know the NFC, outside of like the top 2 or 3 teams, is pretty down this year. So that's pie in the sky. Another one is J.J. Watt. 2 reasons. I think he is happily retired. The other is I just saw a tweet today from a Steelers insider, and someone asked him, do you think the Steelers will actually go for J.J. Watt? He said, hell no, with like 3 or 4 exclamation marks. And J.J. Watt doesn't really play the exact same position as Cam Heyward. Aaron Donald, yes. J.J. Watt, no. J.J. Watt, a little bit more on the outside, edge rusher type, is flexible enough, can be moved into the interior, but that's not his strong suit. But then the last 2 names that could low-key make sense are Ndamukong Suh, that like steady veteran that has been hopping on some like championship contenders over these last like 4 or 5 years, signing for I would say valuable contracts for the most part. Valuable contracts, trying to hop on a contender, win a Super Bowl, was able to do it with the Buccaneers, tried last year with the Eagles, but fell a game short in losing to the Super Bowl. But there's also that Eagles connection because we have the Eagles' former assistant GM and Andy Weidel. So that's another reason why Suh could make sense. And, you know, if you just need someone for depth, you need someone that has a spark, that still has talent, even though he is a little bit over the hill, it wouldn't be the bad call for like a 1-year vet minimum deal. And then the other name, the last name being brought up, is Chris Wormley. I hadn't even thought about him because he got hurt last year with like a season-ending injury. I didn't even think he'd be ready to come back at this point in the season. But apparently the Panthers signed him to their practice squad, so we could sign him off there if need be. But we already knew like Wormley wasn't going to be the best of assets for us anyway on that D-line. Like, he is a good depth piece, but in terms of him being better than Loudermilk or Armon Watts or Fehoko right now, I don't know if that's the case, especially with him coming off of that season-ending injury last year. So right now, with the interior D-line, I'm in wait-and-see mode. I think we're fine rolling with Keanu Benton and Larry Ogunjobi as our top 2, and then you got Loudermilk, Watts, Fehoko, and Adams to spell whenever is needed. Now, if we give up a lot of yards against the Browns in some of these games going forward, then I will change my tune. We might have to pick up one of these guys like a Suh or a Chris Wormley. But then the next guy, Diontae Johnson. Now, this one's interesting for multiple reasons because we have a former receiver that is trying to take advantage of one of our current receivers' misfortunes in being out with an injury. So we know Diontae Johnson. You know what? I screwed that up. Hold on one second. We know Diontae Johnson went out with a hamstring injury in last week's game, and Adam Schefter reported that looks like he'll be a sideline for a few weeks. I think it's going to be anywhere between 3 and 4, which is a bummer. That leaves us now with George Pickens, Allen Robinson, Calvin Austin, Gunnar Olszewski, and Miles Boykin. And we just signed some random dude to our practice squad. Not going to lie, I have no clue who he is. But that leaves Steeler Nation wondering, just like we were with the Cam Heyward injury. Like, should we bring in a replacement? Couple names that are out there intriguing: T.Y. Hilton, Robbie Anderson, Kenny Golladay, Jarvis Landry. The only name that sticks out to me out of those 4 is T.Y. Hilton, because he came back with the Cowboys last year and actually did kind of decent, and he fits the Diontae Johnson type of mold. Now, what's different between this Diontae injury and the Cam Heyward one is Deontay's only going to be out for a month max, whereas Cam Heyward might be out for 2 months. That's a little bit more significant, no? So I think we're good. I don't think we got to stress bringing in like a T.Y. Hilton or anything like that in general, but the former receiver I was talking about that might be trying to take advantage of this Diontae Johnson injury is a guy we know of very, very well. Mr. Big Chest. It looks like he wants a return. And I think this is probably the 4th or 5th or maybe 6th time since he left Pittsburgh. He's been trying to make a comeback, trying to make things right. And this is all mixed in between him bashing the team. I mean, he left because he was bashing Mr. Rooney, Big Ben, Mike Tomlin. And then at some point, I'd say within a year of all that, Patriots cut him. He was a free agent. I think he tried to make right by Pittsburgh and saying, like, I'm sorry, but then he also takes a cheap shot at Juju. There's been many other little passive-aggressive things he said about Steelers or Steeler players and whatnot, but then it's also been mixed with he's sorry, he regrets how he left Pittsburgh, he loved the Steelers, and Big Ben was his favorite quarterback. So it's just been a complete mixed bag. But this is all the while, too, he's had many off-field issues, and, you know, he ran off the Jets field while he was a Buccaneers, and they cut him the next day. So we know what AB's life has been like these last 2 or 3 years. So this isn't really a serious thought. I mean, again, Deontay's only going to be out for 3 or 4 weeks. But, I mean, we know the Mike Tomlin meme. Whenever he was on Ryan Clark's podcast, Clark asked him, is there a chance of a AB return? And Tomlin says, you know, that's not happening. And that quote has made the rounds in form of a meme. And that's obviously what's going to happen here. AB is not coming back. But can I offer like a half-baked idea here, or just like how AB back to the Steelers right now in 2023 could actually work? And it would only be during this Diontae Johnson like 3 or 4 week absence period. You know what I mean? What if we sign AB to just simply 1-day contracts? Hear me out. AB only comes to the Steelers facility, or comes to Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium this Monday night against the Browns. And he's over on the sideline. And when we need him, or we feel like we need him, could use a spark on offense, we put him out there. Or we just put him out there and completely throw the defense off. So 1-day contract. That way we don't have to deal with AB's antics or anything during the week. Who knows what he would say in press conferences, interviews, the relationship between him and Kenny Pickett. All of a sudden for week 3, sign him for a 1-day contract against the Raiders, Sunday Night Football. Just get him out there on the field. That's it. 1-day contract. Again, don't have to deal with his antics. But if we need him, we could use him. Because low-key, on paper, AB with Pickens, you could see the picture here. AB with Pickens and Calvin Austin / Allen Robinson would work. But who knows how that dynamic would work with him and Kenny Pickett, him being a young quarterback and whatnot. Who knows how much Well, we know AB is going to want the ball pretty much all the time, and we might already have a wide receiver issue there with Pickens, and he wants the ball. So yeah, a lot of mouths to feed. It was just an idea. It was just an idea. I was. The more I think about it, it's pretty stupid. As I said, half baked idea. But anyway, yeah, that's not happening, and I don't think we need to bring in another receiver for Diontae Johnson with the time being. But that's kind of what's popping with the Steeler news right now. Let me check in with you guys, and then we're going to get into our week 2 preview. And I will give my top 5 Steelers that I think will bounce back against the Browns. I need to see what you guys are saying with my AB idea. Do you guys have a better idea for how it could actually work? We know it's not happening. But if you had to use your imagination, yeah, here we go. Zabe4 says an NBA 10-day contract. That's what I'm thinking. It's like low risk in a way because you're only signing him for 1 day. You don't have to really deal with the ramifications outside of him being out there on Sunday for that day. So if he came out Monday Night Football against the Browns and it didn't work out, there's drama and whatnot, you just don't sign him for another 1-day contract. That's simply it. And then you just move on. You say, oh, that was fun. That was a good experience. We were just checking in to see if AB has cooled down his temper a little bit, cooled down his antics, and maybe would take the higher road on some things, be more of a team player. But then, yeah, you say, oh, okay, that's not the case anymore. We're done. Or it's still not the case. We'll say that. Not the case anymore. That's been the case with AB, particularly over these last 3 or 4 years. Not the biggest of team players. Definitely brings some off-field to whatever team he's on. There's no doubt. But I'm just saying, he's been out of the league for a little bit. Looks like he might be desperate to get back in. So if this is literally the last straw, maybe he'd be on his best behavior on a 1-day contract, right? But then if it worked, you just sign him for another 1 day and be like, okay, the vibes are rolling here. We got some AB back in the building. Yeah, Tyler Noah says J.J. Watt is done. He's made that very clear. You guys like the AB idea? Chowder Ryan says AB idea is decent. It's not happening. We know it's not happening. Chowder Ryan says, should AB be able to retire in Pittsburgh? I do think that. Wait, when did he bash the team a few days ago? Did he? He probably did because, like I said, it's just been this complete mix of him bashing the team, bashing former players, but then also apologizing and saying he's turned over a new leaf. Tyler Noah says they not finna sign a receiver. They already added Jacob Copeland to the practice squad. They're rolling with their guys. Tyler Noah, JJ said he thought Keanu Benton was good Sunday. Yeah, I do too. I think he's going to be up for the task. He was part of the short list of rookie players a lot of analysts highlighted from week 1 saying, like, they're already ready for the big leagues. Tyler Noah says, it's not happening. It's definitely a waste of time to think of that. Waste of time or fun use of time to think about it. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Ayo, A Young 92 says, I freaking love the hell out of the AB idea. I'm calling Mike right now. 1-day contract. 1-day contract. Child Ryan says he bashed the team on It Is What It Is on Monday, saying Mike T needs to get out of there. They don't treat it. Okay, I didn't. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Didn't. You are right. I did see that clip. I didn't realize that one. Said it Monday. I don't know if that really changes my opinion because he has bashed the Steelers many times over the last 3 or 4 years. He's like Jekyll and Hyde, bro, with that type of stuff. Because how do you do that? How do you bash the team on Monday and then tweet out the next day? Yeah, tweet out yesterday that you want to come play for the Steelers. Unless, honestly, the secret to that or the reason for that is he just wants attention. That's actually what it is. He just wants to stay in the news. Because if you go a step further, would AB actually be serious about joining the team? I think he would from an attention standpoint. Yeah, the more I think of it, it's not happening. It wouldn't work. The one-day contract thing may not even work. But I gave it a chance. I gave it a chance. I was trying to think through it, how it would be possible, but it just wouldn't. Okay, now let's get into the actual players that are gonna be playing week 2 against the Browns. 5 Steelers that I got bouncing back. Let me get off this screen real quick. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we're back. So obviously the Browns beat the Bengals last week pretty handedly, 24-3. My thing is this. I think it was more about the Bengals being rusty, Joe Burrow being rusty, bad weather conditions. There were some game flow things with that one too, where the Bengals went for it far in their own territory on like a 4th down, and that gave the Browns like amazing field position, and they ended up taking advantage of that too. And the score, I think, looked worse than what it was because it's not like the Browns were coming out there guns blazing either. The Browns were struggling a little bit. It was a slugfest with the rain and the conditions and whatnot. I'm chalking it up more to the Bengals just not being good week 1 out the gates as opposed to the Browns being this really, really, really good team or anything like that. They're obviously going to be solid. Like Deshaun Watson is going to be better than last year. They do have talent on their roster on both offense and defense, but I think the Steelers are going to take care of business, are going to be able to take care of business. And I'm going to give you 5 players that bounce back and will be a reason why. First, Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, last week went 232 yards through the air, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And if you watch the game, like those stats actually make it look not as bad as probably what it was. No first downs in the first half for the offense all the way up until the final drive before half. And Kenny was off. Like you just knew it. It didn't look right. Now there is some speculation on why he was off and why he was missing some throws and just didn't look like the Kenny Pickett we know. This has been buzzing around the internet recently. This was what, the 3rd play of the game? Kenny goes down. Look at this. Gets wrapped up, twisted, and bangs his head off the turf. So some people are questioning if Kenny had a concussion, and that's why he didn't look right for most of that game. And once I see this play, and then you put 2 and 2 together and be like, yeah, that wasn't the Kenny we're used to seeing. Like, what was going on? Kenny's normally typically he's really accurate, you know what I mean? And he was just missing throws that he normally wouldn't miss. Like it was jarring to me. So yes, this does make you question some things. You know what I mean? Was Pickett not right because he suffered a little bit of a concussion? But when you dig a little deeper, I don't think that was the case. I don't, because if you look back last year, Kyler Rhino 6, OMG, the excuses. Are we serious right now? Once you see the video, you take into account Pickett's play. I don't think it's far-fetched. I'll put it to you that way. Could it be an excuse? Could it be us trying to cope? That's true too. But I don't think it's far-fetched. But here's the reason why I don't buy that. I don't buy that Kenny had a concussion, and that's really what affected his play. Because last year with Kenny and getting hit in the helmet and having his helmet hit the ground and whatnot, the trainers, the Steelers staff were not only really quick to take care of that, get him out of the game, address that, but also Kenny himself. I think the first one, which was in the Buccaneers game, right? He took himself out. So if Kenny was feeling any of those symptoms, I'm sure he would have taken himself out too. So yeah, I don't think that was the case. Mike Tomlin even shut it down in his press conference. A reporter asked him about it. So no, I don't think he was concussed, but that was a little bit of a Steelers conspiracy theory going around these last 24 hours. But another reason why I think Pickett is going to bounce back is because this is the one game like outlier of his career trajectory thus far. every game last year, he improved. From the bye week on, he got better every single game, all the way to week 18. And that was literally his best game of the season. And that was against the Browns. So that's another reason why I think Pickett will do fine. Like, he has familiarity with that team, has had success against that team, had his best game last year against that team. And then you consider, too, I even mentioned this in the last stream, that Pickett gained all that chemistry, worked hard this offseason. We saw all the good things in training camp. Him improving every game last regular season, plus all the good stuff that he's done this offseason, I don't think this one game takes away from that at all. I think this was just the outlier of his career trajectory thus far, and this one against the Browns will be a bounce back. And considering also that he has success and familiarity against the team, that only helps too. We got our second Steeler to bounce back, George Pickens, last week against the 49ers. Had 5 receptions, 36 yards on 7 targets. So in Pickens, we're talking about familiarity and Kenny Pickett having a good game against the Browns last year. For Pickens, too, he has Cleveland's number. In his 2 games against the Browns in 2022, he had the catch of the year on Thursday Night Football. And then in Week 18, that Pickett to Pickens connection was real because Pickett target Pickens for 72 yards and a touchdown. BP even mentioned in this week 1 game that the 49ers confused them a little bit right out the gates with some of the coverages they were doing. Steelers weren't expecting that. I don't think we're going to have that concern with the Browns because that's a team we see literally 2 times every year. We're familiar with their looks. Again, the offense had success against the Browns last year, put up 28 points against them, and their team didn't really change that much. It really didn't. So, yeah, I expect Pickett and Pickens to bounce back. And don't forget, too, there was a little bit of a beef between Pickens and one of the Browns starting corners, Martin Emerson, this offseason. So I'm sure that's going to be on Pickens' mind, and he's going to want to make another highlight play or two. Prediction for me, I think Pickett to Pickens touches pay dirt this week. I think they get a touchdown. And I think Pickens gets at least over 50, 60 yards. No question. Actually, you know what? My next player to bounce back is another receiver, and I'll double down on a receiver getting over 50, 60 yards and make it 2. Pickens, one of them, and then the next guy will be Calvin Austin. I think he gets over 50, 60 as well. This has to do with Diontae Johnson being out, so someone's got to step up. Calvin Austin III, CA3, looks like the most likely candidate, most obvious candidate. He's got the speed, he's got the quickness, he's got the separation to make him more like a Diontae Johnson prototype, whereas Allen Robinson, who is one of our other next man up in that receiving room, is more like a George Pickens. Calvin Austin, too, in his first game, low-key did some stuff. 6 receptions for 37 yards. We obviously got to see him break out in the preseason. So I could see him being a wide receiver-friendly target for Pickett in this Monday night game and getting open and Pickett taking advantage and getting it to Calvin Austin. So I think he as well gets over like 50 to 60. I think Pickett gets over 200. I think he gets like cool 220, 230, 2 touchdowns. He keeps it clean too. I don't see any interceptions for Pickett this week. Calvin Austin, George Pickens, at least 50, 60 yards. Pickens gets at least a touchdown. And maybe Calvin Austin. I could see us getting one in the running game, but also one going to like Muth or Darnell Washington. So that's why I'm not going to hold Austin to a touchdown. Now, the last 2 bounce back candidates are on defense. Patrick Peterson. We know it wasn't the prettiest of debuts for him against the 49ers in his first game in a Steeler uniform. 2 touchdowns given up to Brandon Ayuk. Did have 2 pass deflections, though. 2 tackles and 53 yards given up. On paper, these Browns receivers shouldn't be giving us the same amount of problems as the 49ers guys and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Browns have Amari Cooper. Got a little banged up in that week 1 game against the Bengals. Elijah Moore, who can be dynamic at times, but isn't really that proven. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's just like a steady wide receiver too. The good thing about Pat P is he did show some flashes that he still had it last week with the 2 pass deflections. But with those chunk plays and then the second touchdown he gave up to Brandon Ayuk, where he had good coverage on it, but Ayuk kind of like mossed him on it. I think he's going to want to make up for that. Dude's a Hall of Famer for a reason. I think he's going to come out this week with a chip on his shoulder. Because if he doesn't, the questions on if he's washed or not will become louder and louder. And I don't think Pat P wants to do that, considering he has a podcast with Brian McFadden and they record it, I think, pretty much every week, maybe even 2 times a week. So I'm sure he'll be hearing it in the comments and hearing it from Steeler Nation if he doesn't come and show out this week, especially at home on Monday Night Football. So he's my 4th bounce back candidate. And my last one actually didn't play bad against the 49ers, but didn't pop off on the stat sheet or make a ton of splash plays. And I'm going with Alex Highsmith against the 49ers. Had 7 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and had 0 sacks. Here's the thing. I mentioned with Pickett and Pickens having success against the Browns last year. Alex Highsmith has the Browns number and also Jedrick Wells, the Browns left tackle's number. Last year in 2022 had 4 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 5 QB hits, and 16 total tackles against Cleveland in 2022. I feel like this one's an obvious one too, whenever you consider the matchup and that the Browns starting right tackle is out for the season in Conklin. So TJ Watt's going to be going up against a rookie in DeJuan Jones. I think the Browns are obviously going to be leaning some of their stuff over to TJ's way to try to protect Deshaun Watson, but that's going to leave the left side of the line a little bit more exposed. And as I said, Alex Highsmith has had a ton of success against Jedrick Wells, and I don't see why that won't be the case this week. I predict at least a sack for Highsmith, maybe even a strip sack coming over on Deshaun Watson's blind side, and we get a turnover. But those are my 5 bounce back players for this week. Let me know your thoughts real quick in the chat. I'll give 2 honorable mentions. Well, this one isn't really an honorable mention. I think this guy's just going to cook. I think it's more of just something to note for this week 2 matchup. TJ Watt against DeJuan Jones, rookie right tackle DeJuan Jones. I think TJ gets another multi-sack game. But also, I think our run game bounces back. We're not going to have to go up against 49ers-esque defensive linemen and front 7 because the Browns guys who they're going to have on the interior on their defensive line is Dalvin Tomlinson, Ogbo Okoronkwo, I probably botched his name up, Shelby Harris, Jordan Elliott. Those guys aren't Eric Armstead and Javon Hargrave. And then the Browns linebackers, in terms of their whole front 7, they got J.O.K., who I think is a good player. But then you got Anthony Walker, Sion Taki. That's not Greenlaw and Fred Warner. Far from that. So I think we're going to have a little bit better push on the O-line. I think we're going to come out with a better brand of physicality, too. Just seeing that we came out of the gates last week lackluster. I don't think they're going to want to do that again at home on Monday Night Football. O-line will be getting better push. I think there's going to be more openings for the running lane or for the running game and just more open running lanes for Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris to take advantage of. But before I sign off, let me get a couple more chats right here. See what you guys are saying. You guys also have Pat P as a bounce back candidate. Kyler Ryan 06, his pick will be hurt by halftime with how many hits he's going to take. I did see from the Browns-Bengals game, the Browns were able to get a significant amount of pressure against the Bengals. So that will be interesting. So their edge rushers will have, or should have, at least on paper, an advantage over our tackles, right? But I think we have an even bigger advantage with our edge rushers against the Browns tackles for this week. So that'll be an interesting part of the game. I think it'll come down to who's able to establish the run and help out their quarterback from that regard. So they're not getting exposed as much to good pass rush like that. Man, not much hope here. Kyler Ryan 06 says we will be okay defensively, but I don't see our offense doing anything. No, this is going to be a bounce back week, man. Bounce back week for the offense. I already mentioned run game. Pickett, Pickens, Calvin Austin. I think we'll be good on offense, man. I think we'll be good. We got off to a slow start. We're going to learn from our mistakes. We're going to move on. We're going to take care of business this week. Relax. RELAX. Repeat your 5 again, please. No problem. It's Kenny Pickett. It's George Pickens. It's Calvin Austin. It's Patrick Peterson. It's Alex Highsmith. Those are my 5 bounce back candidates for week 2. Wait, what is this? Kyler Ryan. We got the ops in here the whole time. He says Kyler Ryan 06. He's been one of the most engaged chat members too. He says, confession, I'm a Browns fan. All right. Well, shout out to you guys for stopping by. Middle of the week, Wednesday. Yeah, I think Steelers get the dub. If I had to give a final like score prediction or anything like that, I think it's going to be similar to what it was week 18. Didn't we win like 28-14? I think that's what it is. I think the offense gets like 3 or 4 touchdowns up on the board. Browns offense, we just got to stop the run, man. We got to sell out, stop the run. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that much in the passing game here. Like I said, I'm not as concerned about these 49ers receivers or these Browns receivers compared to what the 49ers were doing last week. They got Njoku. He's a little bit overrated in my opinion. Amari Cooper, he's good. He's legitimately good. But if we focus on him, I don't think the Browns are going to have a second guy to step up like the 49ers did last week in Brandon Ayuk. Like we kind of contained Deebo Samuel. We kind of contained George Kittle, but then Ayuk went off. I think if we contain Amari Cooper, we contain Nick Chubb. I don't think there's going to be other guys on the Browns that are going to be stepping up like that and be giving us problems. But we'll see, man. I think Steelers get it right, get it to 1-1, and hopefully by next week when I'm doing this stream again, I think it's Monday, I'm going to be doing a little post game or Monday next day type of reaction here on Bleach Report. Hopefully we could be top of the AFC North. If you think about it, we win this game, and I think if the Bengals beat the Ravens, we'll be top of the AFC North. That's it. All right, I'm out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling, and shout out to Bleach Report. Have me back, and peace.